This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Hello and welcome to the Niall or Nine podcast. It's Niall and Andrea Cleary here. Hi, how are you? So, what are we doing on this week's episode, Andrea? Well, it's probably an annual pilgrimage to the hill we call Niall Explains Dance Music, a dance music subgenre to Andrea.
Yes, please.
And extension, everyone else. Yeah, that's what we're doing on this episode. Previous episodes in this series include Italo Disco, Balearic music, Latin freestyle. This month, in this episode, we're doing a special on French touch music. What is French touch music? I've done a deep dive into this and I'm going to share my findings with you. And in the meantime, Andrea is going to take it in and ask some questions and hopefully we'll all learn. I don't think this is going to be like, to me, what the Balearic one was like, where I was like, when I actually got into it, by the end of it, I didn't know what Balearic was in a way. I was like, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yes.
What is it?
This is a bit more
What's
straightforward.
happening?
There's defined terms.
So I've defined what I think this is.
Okay.
So for me.
Okay, I'll ask the question then. Hey Niall, what is French touch?
Well, Andrea, I'm glad you asked because I have extensive notes on this. For some people, French touch means house music of French origin, or dance music of French origin, or electro music of French origin. Not for me though. For me, it's a near 10-year period from the mid 90s to the early 2000s in which French dance music really dominated a lot of dance culture, a time where the Parisian cool French fashion was very strong. The influence was kind of dripping out of the country's culture that we had. Like came on the back of Daft Punk's World Domination, Ed Banger Records, which came later on from that time. Kitsune, the fashion and music label, which had Kitsune Maison compilations. Well, for me, I'm specifically going to focus on French touch as this specific sound that was, I guess you could think about a time of Daft Punk's Homework, 1997. Around that time, there was a lot of French touch music being made. Mm-hmm. For me, French touch is the sound of, it's a song, it's a 4/4 beat, a house music 4/4 beat. It has samples of old disco records. Strings are prominent, vocals are often used and chopped up. Bass lines are super important in this. They're very clean, very gilded, really funky, and synthesizers with a retro kind of futuristic sheen. There's a lot of synths going on, and also a filtered and compressed cosmic atmosphere in the production as well. A sense of majique, we can say.
Majique.
Oui. So, well, maybe I'll play one specific song that I think right now. I'm going to go into this later in more detail in terms of who made this and where they came from. But this is a song called Palladium by Alan Brax and Fred Falk. So that's a brief preview of where we're going on this episode. Palladium by Alan Brax and Fred Falk.
I have a question. Is that song at all connected in the past, present, or future with Starlight by, what do you call them? I can hear
yeah,
that.
well, we're gonna get into.
Okay.
We're gonna get into that. I think it would.
Okay.
I think Starlight is inspired by this kind of vibe.
Okay,
for
but
sure.
not necessarily a sample.
It is a friend. Starlight. Superman Lovers were an actual French dance act. So yeah.
Oh my god! I'm giving myself a gold star.
It's all related. So, I mean, for a lot of French touch music comes from and shares a connection with the house music that came out of Chicago. Takes a lot of that influence and a lot of some Detroit stuff as well. It's really hard to discuss French touch, and you shouldn't really leave them out without discussing Daft Punk, because they are really a huge part of this. And in many ways, they are the biggest French touch band, or they started as that kind of vibe. On Homework, their debut album, they do shout out a few different people on that song. A lot of their influences actually on the song Teachers. So they pay tribute to the likes of DJ Sneak, Paul Johnson, DJ Funk, DJ Dion, Lil Louis, Green Velvet, Joey Beltram. And you can hear in some of the tracks here that I'm going to play that Hear the Music is a song that their Essential Mix from 1997 that they did for BBC Radio 1, I think this even opens it. So this is kind of Paul Johnson. I'm not sure what, this is from Chicago anyway. It's definitely 1996. So it's really that time in music. This is Paul Johnson from Chicago. So very much Daft Punk would be influenced by a lot of the Chicago house stuff, DJ Sneak as well. Here's a song called My Dub from DJ Sneak. So you can hear a lot of the kind of Daft Punk sound in that. Here's a song called Sneak's a Freak from DJ Sneak. And of course, Daft Punk Teachers is the song I'm talking about.
Paul Johnson, DJ Funk, DJ Sneak, DJ Rush, Wax Master, Hyperactive, Jamin Gerald, Brian Wilson.
So in the early Daft Punk music, you can really hear a lot of that Chicago house influence. I went on holidays when I was 16 with my family to France. And in the supermarket that year, I bought the CD single of Daft Punk's The Funk. And the B-side is a song called Music. And you can hear a lot of that.
Music dans la supermarché.
So very much minimalist, kind of almost maximalist kind of dance music, very filtered house music. You could argue that a lot of what Daft Punk did later on Discovery in 2001 actually really shut the whole idea of French touch down, because they almost obliterated with their pop hits in a way. But they still had some great songs that were very much adjacent to that. So I'm thinking of, there's a couple of tracks certainly on Homework where I would think would be very much influenced by that. And a lot of what happens in terms of Daft Punk, when I think about them being the French touch influenced or associated act, is the bass lines really. So here's Burning from Daft Punk. That kind of like clean, stanky funk bass that they used an awful lot in their tracks is something that is very French touch. And on Phoenix as well, kind of has more of that kind of euphoric synth rush that I'll play a lot later on. Some of the songs that I think are the key ones. And as you go into the Discovery in 2001, like High Life is the track from Discovery that I would say is very much that vibe.
So what is it that you think changes between Homework and Discovery to kind of move them away from like being a French touch artist or adjacent? Is it like more is it like clearer vocals? Is it choruses and verses, and or like what is it that changes for you?
In Homework, they're clearly inspired by that Chicago house and all that kind of music that they loved, and you can really hear it in Homework, and that's what, like, it's Homework, it's what it's called. And when they get to Discovery, by that point, it's very much like they've developed this own identity of the robots and all this kind of stuff, and I think that leads them to kind of think about their music in this, world building way that is this, interstellar, as they've called things before, very much like cosmic fun pop music that is very French, very Gallic. Those kind of synthesizers are very almost identifiably French in lots of ways. And this in Discovery, I think they just match this. It becomes simpler. The music becomes simpler. It becomes more disco based. It becomes
more of like
very
a vision?
poppy, very vocal led. Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, overall, I mean, it's very, like, it's cheesier. It's so cheesy.
Sure.
Like when Discovery came out first, I hated it.
Really?
I really did, because I was like, well, partly because One More Time was just on everywhere you went, and at that time I was very much like, oh, things are popular, I don't like it. Which I've come back on Discovery. Obviously, I'd say it took me about 3 or 4 years after that to be really like, okay, I really do like this. It's very good. You can't deny it. But it was just ubiquitous at that point. But there's a lot of good music on this record. But it's just more, it's created its own world. Discovery is more that world building stuff. It's very much, it's like pop, dance music, disco. It's easier to digest. And then the vocoder stuff, all that. A lot of the vocal stuff is where this is key difference. The samples there are samples used in this, obviously, but the samples are less like the way that the French touch samples are a sample from a disco record or a soul record, and then looped in 8 bars or maybe even 4 sometimes, and just repeated. These are pop songs. Discovery has pop songs.
Something like Face to Face is much more of like a pop song than even other things on the, like, I don't know. I'm trying to make the connections between, but I can definitely see a difference when I'm looking at the track listing for the two. But I think there's still some like kind of crossover here, which is cool because it signals that they are, like, even though they're in their Discovery era, that they're sort of bringing everything that they learned from Homework and just sort of like adding some world building, adding some storytelling, and some color, some like futuristic kind of color to it, which is cool.
Yeah, and they became so good at that, and that's what I think they were so popular. And the robots thing is obviously a huge part of their brand and what they were, and very smart, and it worked really well for them. But as well, like they did have remixes around that time. I'm saying here's a song that they made in 1999, very much a French touch remix as well. It's of Scott Groove's called Mothership Connection, which is features Parliament, and here we go, Funkadelic as well. So you can hear that vibe there, and you can hear some maybe that kind of more abrasive later stuff that they were doing as well. And also, I think the thing about Daft Punk, even if they're not making the songs, they had a couple of labels that were very influential of this time. So Guy Manuel de Homam Christos, our label, was called Cry de More, and it had this really weird track that was released in the year 2000 by a band called The Eternals. Or a disco producer, I think they were brothers, perhaps. Wrath of Zeus is the name of the track. It has 3 different songs in it. It's a bit mad.
You are sentenced to spend your entire life in a never-ending dance on this floor. And now, for eternity, you shall enter the mighty wrath of Zeus.
So that was a mashup of 3 different tracks.
I love that.
The songs. Yeah. Musique, Keep On Dancing, Lips Inc., All Night Dancing, or Keep On Jumping, sorry, Musique. And then Crusader Street Life. So that was released on one of Daft Punk's, the Guy Manuel's. Cry de More is the name of the label. There's another label that's very, very relevant to French touch. But before that, I want to briefly also discuss what I think a lot of what maybe isn't, but is also a precursor to French touch, because a lot of people would call this, and I'm just like looking at The Guardian had a list of French touch records, and a lot of people were like, why isn't this in here? Why isn't this in here? So for me, a lot of the French touch I'm defining is very much like, it is that high energy stuff. But the slight precursor to that is Etienne de Crécy. He had a album called Super Discount. He was very influential at this time. And I remember this being on MTV and stuff, and being just like hearing about Super Discount, and I thought it was like, what is this thing that's on? Pre-Shock is the name of this track I'm going to play now. So there was a lot of this kind of French music happening at the time, more kind of filtered disco. Am I Wrong is one of his other songs. A really famous, well-known song. I love this track, actually. Then there was a song called The Child by Alex Gopher, which is very much of this time as well. He was a French DJ. I did generally, I'm almost 95%, maybe more, stick to French producers in this, because a lot of people would have thrown in some other kind of European stuff, but I think French touch should be French, same as the way most Italo should be Italo. So the music was definitely slower before 1999. Around this 96, 97 time, even Daft Punk had a remix of a song from iCube called Disco Cubism. And this is what that sounded like in 1996. There was a lot of that jazzy house kind of stuff happening at the time. So other things that people, sometimes you have to know what something isn't in order to identify what it is. Mm-hmm. And here are some French dance acts or producers who are often shoved in with French touch, which to me aren't. Okay. I remember downloading this album, I think it was 1997 around that time. I had this burnt on CD, a producer called Kid Loco, a song called Grand Love Theme. Very relaxed, very chill. Easy listening kind of trip hop stuff. It sat with Nightmares on Wax in a lot of ways, and that was a lot of people had that. Another track that I know we talked to Kina Cuivon recently about is Saint Germain Rose Rouge, a big track at the time. I want you to get together. I want you to get together. Definitely more on that jazzy house vibe. And speaking of a much bigger dance song, but Laurent Garnier, a key French disco and dance producer, he had a song called The Man with the Red Face. So around this time, I think a lot of the French music split into two camps. They went either in the easier listening trip hop kind of stuff. There was obviously a lot of black French hip hop stuff that was really doing well at this point, and really interesting stuff like MC Solar was the name that everyone would know, but there was loads of other really great rap music. But in the dance sphere, there was a club called Rex Club where Laurent Garnier and a lot of the people we're talking about here used to play, and is very influential in terms of those people meeting. But a lot of that kind of stuff I just played is very much more like, it's more coffee table than turntable. Do you know what I mean? It's like easy listening kind of stuff. It's got live instruments, it's jazzy. So I think Air is probably the natural progression of some of that stuff. It's like the easy listening Moon Safari. It's very French, but it's very relaxed and very easy to listen to. And on the flip side, then there's a lot. I
think it's like the difference between a come up and a come down. Do you know?
Yeah,
it's
that
like,
would be more. Yeah,
there's sort of like getting ready to go out music, and then there's you're back at the set, and the sun is coming up music, and it's like. Both of those things are valid in the journey, but they are different, and they kind of belong in different, parts of the journey.
Sure. Yeah. So there was a duo called Motor Bass back in around 1996, which featured Etienne de Crécy, who I played earlier on, and so he was a producer from Paris who was also part of a duo called Motor Bass, and Phillipe Zdar was the other half of Motor Bass, and he went on to create Cassius with Hubert Boom Bass. So Cassius for me in 1999 released what is some of the pretty much the quintessential French house, French touch music. There's two tracks in particular on the album. Now French touch wasn't a big album genre really, but I think Cassius's album 1999, it's got a very famous cover of it, kind of a paparazzi shot. It was so cool, and it still is. And I think to me this really stands up because it's got two smash hits really on this. So I'll play both of them, 1999 and Feeling for You. They never lose their sheen for me, and they still sound good. Here is 9 seconds. That's the opening track of their album, Cassius 1999. And
very
this
cool
is
album cover.
Feeling for You. Yeah, it is great. So you can kind of hear the formula there. It's very much like it's got a clipped bit of vocal, short amount of vocal, sometimes sped up, often sped up. The bass line is very much present. It's kind of funk and disco bass line. Sometimes it's even a bit of slap bass, very much like that kind of stank face kind of sound. So Cassius 1999, the album was very popular. They would go on to make a lot of the quintessential French dance music of the era, and Phillipe Zdar would actually go on to be quite an influential producer who made records with Phoenix, Beastie Boys, MC Solar I mentioned earlier on, Block Party, Kindness, Franz Ferdinand, and Hot Chip. So very much an in-demand artist and producer. In 2016, they released an album called I Befornia, an album I really liked, featured Mike D, the Beastie Boys, Cat Power, Pharrell, and Ryan Tedder, amongst others. Sadly, Phillipe Zdar died in 2019 in tragic circumstances after falling off a roof at the age of 50. So it was actually the week that Hot Chip album was released. So very sad time, but he was clearly very influential. And anything he kind of touched was very much had that super clean, lovely production stuff going on. And speaking of Phoenix, funny enough, because around that time, they actually made their first ever single was a French touch track, and it's called Heatwave, and it sounds like this. And there was also a guy I really kind of have to shout out here because he was very much part of that and wouldn't be totally my bosom maybe in a lot of ways. But a French man called Bob Sinclair, he had a song called Gym Tonic, which sampled the Jane Fonda workout video. And he is very French. And this is very of the year. This is from 1998. So I played some Alan Braxe and Fred Falk earlier on, and I think a lot of my favorite French touch music comes from these duos and their associated projects. So Braxe and Falcon, Alan Braxe was a key figure in French touch, and DJ Falcon, also known as Fred Falk. So the two of them together made some of the more euphoric kind of French house, French touch music. I played Palladium earlier on. This is a song called Intro from them from the year 2000, I think. Yeah, 2000. So Braxe and Falcon did a lot of stuff together. They were actually released a song last week together. They've been back at it recently, a song with Bibio as well, and they've been making music again. So that's nice to see. But one of the other projects that was related to that is called The Paradise, which was a collaboration that Alan Brax did with a producer or a singer called Ramoul. And so this has more of a kind of a come down kind of feel to it. Perhaps it's In Love With You. More hands around your mates at the end of the night thing.
Oh, I like that. That's my kind of thing.
A lot of this early stuff was released on a label called Roulet, which is actually Thomas Bangalter's label. He obviously one half of Daft Punk, and he did released a lot of this music. Before I do, here's you may remember, actually, I mentioned Braxton Falcon came back recently. They also had a song out with Panda Bear last year called Step by Step, and then this song, Creative Source. So still doing that kind of fun disco sampling music. So there's a few songs I wanted to play here from an associated thing. So DJ Falcon and Thomas Bangalter actually made some music together with an act called Together in the year 2000. And I think these are very much the definitive French touch selections that you can't leave out. So there's two songs. They're very, very similar. I'd say this song is called Together itself. It's employs a kind of big room bass drop. Let's have a listen. Yeah, that's very much that is pure French touch for me. And then the other track they released a couple of years later on this, but this is called So Much Love to Give. 10 minutes of this is what they did, and they would really push this kind of Maximus clipping filtered French touch to its natural conclusion. Now, there was also the likes of DJ Falcon's own song. First, all released on this Roulet label based on the roulette wheel. All of the artwork had that. Did that song remind you of anything, Andrea?
I thought you maybe like shared that before, or maybe had it on a list. I don't know. I've heard it before.
Not sure.
But maybe I've heard the thing that it's reminding.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Cutting me off instead?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to play something here because it's very... I'm going to play it back again. Listen to this first.
Okay.
So this brings us to a track that you will know very, 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 very well. A very big song is called Call On Me by Eric Price.
My number one favorite song of all time.
Okay, we all remember that one. The video at the time was a lot of people, women working out in a sweaty
and a man
studio.
There was a man
was
there.
There a man in there?
I remember the man.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, okay,
I
good.
was.
I don't.
What year is that? I was probably like 11.
2004.
Oh, okay. So I was
I
like
think.
13 when that came out. And I remember like me at 13, basically all I did like at any moment when I wasn't in school was just watch music video channels. It's like my entire life was just watching music videos. And at this time, and this song like brings me back to that time. And it's like, it was just like constant soft porn on television.
Yeah.
And I'm just taking that all in. And I'm just like, music.
For sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
like this,
You're totally
and,
right.
like just all of those videos, like, and it's really like, it's the most kind of intensified in this video, or probably not, but like that one, where they're playing like volleyball, the just won't do without you.
Yeah.
All of those videos where everyone, and Satisfaction, like that era was just wild.
Yeah.
And I was
Tim
just
Deluxe,
like, yep.
you were talking about that.
Yeah, I'm just like,
it was just
music.
everywhere. People were like, we need to make a music video for this dance song that's taken off.
Yes, yeah.
All right, well, let's just get loads of scantily clad people in to do something, some sort of activity.
Yeah.
And
building, volleyball, dancing, whatever it is.
Whatever, doesn't matter.
Aerobics.
Driving a car. Yeah. So that's Call On Me, Eric Price. But I think the thing about this is actually he stole this idea. Where this came from was a DJ Falcon and Thomas Bangalter track that they made for a live show as Together. I think they did 1 or 2 live shows as this, but they did a version of this. Obviously, what is the key sample of that song? Well, it's this song. It's the Valerie by Steve Winwood.
Music, high and sweet, then she just blew away. Now she can't be that one with the wind in her arms. Valerie, call on me, Valerie, come and see me. I'm the same boy I used to be.
Let's be honest, that song does the work for you, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good
but
stuff.
so they made
It's
this song.
Good stuff. It's a good song.
Yeah, they made an
Niall.
edit of this song. Yeah. They made an edit of this song for a live show, which I don't know if this is a version of it or somebody recreated it, but this is from 2002. So a couple of years before Eric Price released Call On Me, the DJ Falcon and Thomas Bangalter made this. pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, that's actually
What?
the rip of this says it's 9 minutes. It's 9 minutes long. Came from 2003, a DJ Falcon set, and the song was made in 2002.
He stole this.
Yeah,
this is stolen.
Stole
This is
it.
stolen artwork.
They never released it. They made this for the.
That doesn't matter.
Well,
oh my
you
god!
snooze, you lose. I guess. Here it is again.
That's such a scandal.
Well, Eric Price certainly simplified it to the nth degree, and actually that's something that we're going to discuss now, because really we're talking about big pop songs. Yeah,
is this well known?
That's the history.
Am I just like?
I don't know. Actually, I don't really know if that's well known.
Oh my god!
Because they never released it. So I mean, I guess in a way, they should have.
Yeah.
But they made it for a live show and they didn't think it was going to be popular, and Eric Price certainly heard it and made it. I think this happens a lot in dance music, certainly. If you don't do it first, somebody else might do it for you.
Crazy.
So yeah. Obviously around this time we're talking about big pop songs. That's a big pop song. And there's a few other French house adjacent and inspired music that went on to become big pop hits, especially with the French stuff. You'll know this one very well. It's by Mojo and it's called Lady. Yeah, they were a French duo. Did you know they had another song? They had another hit.
No.
A song called Chillin'. You might know it.
Chillin'.
Suddenly I saw her.
Yeah. I do know it.
Dancing on the sea. Just like in a dream. She would set my heart on fire. I feel so high. Dancing all night.
And around this time, it was obviously the Superman Lovers and Starlight, which you mentioned. Very much
Banger.
of the era.
Driving up on the east side, a chance for everyone. Been putting out the CD for a long time, far from my hometown. I see my dream for real. I will rise above. Heart is pure and thoughts are clear. Not gonna mess around. Mom and Daddy would be so proud. City, please don't let me down. Starlight, can you give me a fan? Can you tell me the game? Oh, Starlight, can you?
You can hear all the things in French Touch there. The bass line, the kind of sheenful synthesizers. What they do is actually just got a proper pop vocal on it. And
Yeah.
made a hit out of it. And that's 2001.
This,
you can even hear some Daft Punk influence, just softer.
These tracks, like tracks that were kind of coming out around the same time as this Starlight, these are like mainstays of like me and my like particular group of mates. We like go away once a year, and this is always the playlist. Like these are the songs that we're all listening to. They're like a mainstay of our. And actually, speaking of kind of music videos and being glued to the TV during this time, there was like the the soft porn of the kind of more dance stuff, but then the pop stuff or this like more into this area was like, wasn't this video like a load of little like potato guys kind of running around?
Yeah.
There was
that was the
kind
other
of more,
strand
like,
of music videos.
Yeah, it was like
when they
really
didn't
like
have anyone to put in the video.
surrealist stuff,
Yeah,
or like
animated
kind of cute
stuff.
surrealist like weird stuff, or porn.
Yeah.
Those were the two kinds of music until
basically
rock
you
music
couldn't
came
put the
back.
producer of whoever made the music into the video,
No,
so they had to either go sexy or go silly. So that's kind of what happened a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, big song. There's a couple of other tracks, certainly not pop hits necessarily, but ones that I think are worth mentioning in this section. And certainly appear to Braxton Falcon, a song called Demon from 2004, a bit later on. So kind of really is the end of kind of my era here.
Mm.
And it's called You Are My High. Apologies, year 2000 is actually when that was released as well. So that was Demon by You Are My High. Another one I personally love. It's actually not a French producer, but it has that kind of vibe. This is The Sound of a Daytime Summer Beach Party in Ibiza, if ever I've heard one. A British producer called Pete Heller, and the song is called Big Love. Love that song. Okay, it's time to talk about the ultimate French touch song, the song which encapsulates all of the people that we talked about so far, and also the pop super smash hit, the ultimate French touch song, released 16 years ago this week. Any guesses on what it is?
I have no idea.
Press play on it. Obviously, it's Stardust.
Banger.
Music Sounds Better With You, a absolute classic. So this song was made by a trio of Daft Punk producer Thomas Bangalter, Alan Brax, and the vocalist Benjamin Diamond. Brax and Bangalter met in the mid-90s. Brax had a weird minimal club tune called Vertigo, which was very much early French touch house music. And Bangalter released it on that label Roule I mentioned earlier on. This is what this sounds like. So Bang Olufsen released that track on his label Roulette in 1997, and he also remixed the song. That was the original, but where the remix sounded more like this. Kind of made it sound like a pogo stick squelching on tiles or something. Skip ahead and see where this goes. Okay, so that was the start of this friendship and working relationship. So basically, Brax performed at the Rex Club in Paris, playing that song because he was releasing it at the time. He asked Bang Alter to play keyboards and his friend, a punk singer called Benjamin Diamond, to do vocals. Interestingly, Benjamin Diamond hated dance music at the time and was like, all right, I'll do it, but I don't want to do it. One thing led to another, and the trio ended up writing the first version of Music Sounds Better With You for the live show, because they only had 20 minutes of music and they needed, or 25 minutes of music, and they needed another 5 minutes of music. So what they sampled a well-known song at the time, Shaka Khan's Fate, to use as the guitar riff. So they sampled that tiny little guitar riff and the glittery bit in it and made that song out of it. Originally released on Bang Olufsen's label Roulette, and then a wider release on Virgin Records when they started playing on the radio and was like, this is doing really well. And then they got Michel Gondry to make a music video for it. And the song just absolutely blew up. It just completely took off. They only ever, Stardust, the trio as they were, only ever performed once in a 30-minute set other than the Rex Club performance at a festival in Montpellier. And I think Virgin offered them $3 million to produce a Stardust album. He made some demos for it, but I think ultimately Daft Punk was his main gig and he wanted to keep it that way. And the rest of them, I think, and funny enough, Benjamin Diamond got kind of pigeonholed as this singer, this kind of like disco singer, when he was actually a punk singer, and he was like, I don't want to do this. And then it didn't really work out, and Brax just went off and did his own thing, as he did, as we played earlier on. And so there's loads of that music there. But yeah, I mean, what a classic. How good is that? It's so repetitive. Its beauty is in its repetition. After a minute, you know exactly where it's going, and it doesn't change much. The bass line changes. Nothing really changes. They made a version of this which had full vocals, and they tore it apart, and they were like, just repeat the same lines over and over again. It's pure, dumb, beautiful fun. And I think it still sounds really, really good these days.
And it's sort of dynamic enough, like the vocals are dynamic enough that like you enjoy singing along. Like when he says, I don't know exactly what he's saying, but the feels so good, baby. Like you can picture people on a dance floor and the way that they dance to that and the way that they lean into that. And it's like, it's a really dynamic vocal performance. It's not that sort of like it is repetitive, you know what the song is, but it's also like fun to sing along to. It's not the kind of repetitive that I don't enjoy listening to. It's kind of
there's enough in it, enough variation in it to keep you interested,
and to feel still like it's pop music.
And I think that's why this is the ultimate French touch song, because in terms of certainly the biggest one, it's the most popular because it has that, while it relies on repetition, it doesn't purely rely on repetition. It has enough variants in it to keep you interested and keep a lot of people who wouldn't be interested in a lot of the stuff I played earlier on into that kind of music.
Yeah.
So,
and then a song like Starlight has all those kind of amazing vocal harmonies, like the backing vocals, and that's not something that like you necessarily associate with dance music or house music. Like there's a call and response thing happening in the vocals that feels like it belongs to a completely different genre, but it's brought in so seamlessly to something that you can dance to, like in a club. It's like, it's really cool. I love Starlight as well. I think I like Starlight more than I like Music Sounds Better With You. I don't know if that's controversial, but I have a real soft spot.
I think it's a softer song for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a maybe slightly cheesier.
Yes.
Vocally.
Yeah.
Because of the backing vocals.
Yeah, and I mean the vocals, like those
unusual.
like really deep, cheesy vocals. Like I love. It's such a creative song. It's a song where at any point someone could have been like, this is a bit much. Like this is maybe a bit too cheesy, and then someone else was like, no, let's do it. You know. So I love it.
Sometimes you just gotta commit to the bit.
Totally.
Well, to bring it all back around again, I mean, I mentioned Daft Punk and showing their influences and wearing their influence on their sleeve and literally shouting out the producers that inspired them in Teachers. Later on, in Alive 97, the live album that they released from that period around 2007, they actually shouted out a lot of this music in one of the mashups that they did as part of the tour. So what I'm going to play now is a bit from One More Time, essentially their big hit. But leading into that from the 2006-2007 tour, you'll hear a bit of a mashup of Music Sounds Better With You and maybe a bit of the Together track as well. Perhaps let's have a listen here and see what we get. So that is really from start to finish. Daft Punk at the start, they're at the end of all of this, and I think an indelible part of French touch music. So with all of those songs now, would you say you would recognize or identify what French touch is?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's maybe more of a time than a genre.
I think the bass lines are very identifiable of that time, and they are the real thing for me that really sit there. The synthesizers as well, feeling very shiny.
I feel like the vocals can change from being
short
like,
vocal sample.
Yeah, like some of them can be like really clipped up to the point of like where you can't recognize them, but others can be like immediately recognizable. Can have like a verse chorus, verse bridge kind of structure. But I think it is the sort of the funk influences, I think, are probably what kind of like ties it all together in the bass, even the kind of the little guitar bits. But it is definitely recognizable. It's like you know it when you hear it sort of thing.
For sure, for sure. So what happened with all of this music, as things do, they move on. The filtered disco, French house, French touch music would soon morph into kind of a bloggy house, much more harder electro. You might say it got harder, faster, stronger. Blog house, electro music. The likes of Ed Banger Records started to release stuff. Ed Banger was Pedro Winters, Busy P. he was actually a key part of the Daft Punk story. He worked for them, their label, and introduced the robots to DJ Falcon as well. And he lived above DJ Falcon. So very much part of this story in the background, but also when Daft Punk took off and became this international sensation, started his own label called Edbanger, which was very off the time, released a lot of great kind of very upbeat dance music. DJ Mehdi was a big part of this. Here is his tune called Pocket Piano. So DJ Mehdi was actually one of the best DJs I've ever seen play live. He was a real performer in a way of, I remember seeing him in Crawdaddy once, and just so in love with the music, so like really passionate. So he had a song as well called Signet Tune, which Thomas Bangalter actually did a remix of, which is a bit more frantic. You're starting to hear that more electronic, electro kind of sleaziness in the music here, much more abrasive. Sebastian was another artist which is very, very popular at that time. Walkman is the name of the song. Harder territory, kind of more square wave kind of music. There's another song here called Minuit Jacuzzi from the Data remix of Tepper, which is very much of that time as well. So we're really in electro house now. We're in a different vibe. We're in completely different style. And while there are tracks that were released in later eras that were kind of true back to the French touch era, I'm thinking of Lifelike in particular, a song called Night Patrol. If there's another band that took the French touch inspirations and made it their own, it is, of course, the band that are still going, the French band Justice. Their big hit first was We Are Your Friends, but also they had a lot of their own stuff as well. So let's listen to We Are Your Friends. You can hear it on their debut album, Justice, as well. Dance, with their big other pop hit at the time.
That's the sound of my teenage years. That's the sound of me drinking cans of Druids and being a little dickhead.
Well, I mean, the thing about Justice is they're still at it. They're still doing it. They had a song out last year, or an album out last year called Hyperdrama. And they did a remix, or this year, sorry, Hyperdrama came out this year in April, producing time there. One Night All Night, their track with Tame Impala. You can still hear some of the French touch influence on this. Albeit Justice do that with a much greater gargantuan kind of rock sound almost in a way. But it's still present and it's still there. Justice were probably the ones that took it as far as they could go in terms of that sound. But yeah, I think that's kind of French touch in a nutshell. All of that music, the French music that came afterwards was very much electro pop, electro house, blog house, that kind of stuff. But really, the French touch music was, for me, that 7 or 8 year period between 97 and probably 97 and 2004 latest, probably, maybe even smaller. But that was where, for me, I enjoyed doing this because I was always like, I want to do something about French touch. The reason I want to do something about French touch, because when I thought about this last month, I was like, it's summery music to me. When I thought about this, the sun was shining. Obviously, right now it's nice. It's not sunny, but it's warm. I'm feeling warm.
You're wearing a very nice tie-dye t-shirt.
Yeah,
you look like
I'm wearing my ABBA Voyage.
You're a true
t-shirt.
Summer today. Very bright.
I'm embracing the summer. Yeah. So that is French touch music.
Amazing.
If you like what you hear here, you can join us on patreon.com/Niall9. Last week we did a Patreon only episode, our best of the month episode. Now will go out on Patreon only. So thank you to the people who've supported us since and appreciate that we are doing this off our own backs and independently and all that kind of stuff. So it really does help every time you support us from a $5 a month. It really does help keep the show on the road. Myself and Andrea do a best of the month from now on. The only way you can listen to it in full will be on Patreon. So that's once a month. And in the meantime, then myself and Andrea are going to do a deep dive once a month. So this is our deep dive for this month, I think. And then we'll see what else comes up.
I mean, we may have the return of, this is like a sort of an unofficial series of Niall explains a dance music subgenre to Andrea. I have my own little series of Andrea's weird little guys. So I might have a little think about.
Could be time for one of those soon.
Yeah, I think we're probably coming up to having a weird little guy. So we've done Paul Simon. Who have we done? Paul Simon's the one I remember. We've done like 3 of them.
That's the main one, I think. Yeah,
I can't remember the other my other boys. There was one I wanted to do, but of course, his band had a very terrible news story within the past week. So, sorry, Neutral Milk Hotel fans. We'll put that off for a while.
I wonder. I didn't see anything about that. Sufjan, I guess, counts.
Sufjan. Oh my God, he's like the weird little guy.
He is the weird little guy.
Yes. And actually, if while I'm here, I might as well plug it. On Juvenalia, the other podcast that I host, Alan McGuire and myself have an episode all about Elliott Smith that we recorded within the last month that is available to people. So if you want to hear me and Alan talk about one of our weird little guys, you can go and listen to that.
Lovely. I'll go and listen to
that. Yeah, I'll have a think.
Yeah. Cool. And we also, speaking of genres as well, we've obviously done the indie sleaze in the past as well. You find that on the feed. But yeah, I think we're going to be bringing back the Listen Closely series as well in September. So at some point we'll be doing a deep dive into an album. And we've loads of different ideas about episodes we're going to do in the future. But yeah, I think our plan, myself and Andrea, right now is every second week we will reconvene on the podcast. One of those being behind the Patreon bars and the rest. I'm doing an episode next week where I chat to the artist Shiv. So you can look out for that soon ahead of her All Together Now performance. So there'll be more on that. Other than that, look, there's lots happening. It's summer. We're in a summertime buzz, as we always say. So everything is subject to change, but it's always nice to have a summer episode, which is about a subgenre of music. So if you have any ideas about artists we should cover, subgenres of dance music or otherwise that we should look at, it's podcast@niall9.com or get to drop us a line in the Discord if you're there. The Discord is where a lot of the people who are supporters of our Patreon hang out and sometimes go to gigs together and all that kind of stuff, as I mentioned. Great place to be. You could drop us a message on Patreon as well if you want. Either way, there's plenty of places in which to get in touch with us. Podcast@niall9.com is the best way to get both of us, I think. So yeah, that is French Touch music.
Thank you, Niall.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for indulging me as ever. Andrea, thanks a million.
Always. Bye.
All right. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Thanks for listening to the 909 podcast. If you like what we do, why not consider supporting us at patreon.com/909.